Continuing our buyer's informational video series on the process of buying a property, there's a few forms I like to go over regarding how agents represent customers when purchasing a property. And there's several forms here on the screen, which I'm going to review with you. They will be linked down below for you to review as well. The first form here is the Consumer Information Statement in New Jersey. And what this states is how realtors represent customers in a real estate transaction. This form has been updated in 2024 to include another category, which I'll review with you shortly, called designated agency. However, there's several different ways a customer can represent someone who's looking to purchase a property. You could act as a buyer's agent representing the buyer only. You could act as a disclosed dual agent, meaning that that agent also represents the seller of the property. You could also act as a transaction broker, meaning that they are there. The agent is there to facilitate the transaction. They are not there to provide advice. They do not have any fiduciary responsibility to the buyer. They can't give their opinion on the price, give information about the market. They're there just to facilitate. What I mean by that is they're probably there to just write paperwork or move the process along in a transactional management capacity. I don't act as a transaction broker, but certain like flat fee service companies, when people go to sell or buy, they will act in that manner where they very little other than just processing the whole transaction. Another way you could represent a customer is as a seller's agent, where you're representing the seller only. And finally, there's a new category in New Jersey called designated agent, and that is where you have a buyer wants to purchase a property and the same company also represents the seller of that property. So some buyers are not comfortable with dual agency where the same agent represents both parties because they feel that their best interests are not being taken into account. So the Real Estate Commission, along with the New Jersey Association of Realtors, came up with designated agency. And this is where the broker who oversees the office can assign a different agent to represent the buyer and a different agent to represent the seller. So each party has their own agent working for them and they have fiduciary responsibility to that buyer, and that other agent has fiduciary responsibility to that seller. So that is linked down below. You can read all about the different forms of agency and agency relationships in New Jersey. This form was updated in 2024 to add the category of designated agent. There's a couple other forms here, which is if you're a buyer and you are entering into a dual agency situation where the same agent represents the buyer and the seller of the property, a buyer must give consent to that. So there is a form here giving consent that they are okay with that. And it's called the informed consent to dual agency, which the buyer would review and sign with the agent. If they're not comfortable with that and they want designated agency, then there's the informed consent to designated agency, where you're saying, I want another agent from the company to represent me as the buyer, and a different agent will represent the seller, all within the same brokerage. So there has to be another form here as well, giving consent to designated agency. And this is the informed consent to designated agency form, which the buyer and agent will sign as well. And finally, in August 2024, a new state law went into effect, which requires all buyers who are looking at properties to sign a buyer's agency agreement with an agent prior to viewing the property. This does not include open houses, but if these are private showings, you would sign an exclusive buyer agency agreement to have an agent show you these properties. Now, the agreement could be just for one property. It could be for one weekend of showings. It could be for a month, 6 months. The term could be however short or long as they agree to with the agent. It could be for any county, the whole state, or property specific. And basically in this form, it outlines the agent, their responsibilities, the term of the agreement, and the compensation. And if the compensation is coming from the buyer, what is that fee? How is that being paid? What percentage? That could all be negotiated. Also, is there is a retainer being charged, or no retainer being charged. Also, if the buyer wants the offers to be made where the seller is paying the brokerage fee, they have to give authorization for that on this form, where they could tell the agent, I want you to write the offer with the seller paying the brokerage fee. So there's a category for that here where they will check that box off to authorize the buyer's agent to, when they present an offer, to have the compensation paid by the seller. And it goes to the duties of the buyer's agent, and then additional information regarding this whole agency agreement, termination, etc. So I'll link this down below, but this form has to be reviewed and completed and signed prior to viewing any properties with a buyer's agent. Like I said, open houses do not count if you go to an open house, but just keep in mind the agent at the open house during an open house represents the seller only. As part of the new law, that is clear that open house agents only represent the seller. I'll link all these forms down below. If you have any further questions, you can reach out to me anytime at walter@livingonthehudson.com or at 347-448-3766. Have a great day.